Hey guys, welcome to another episode of R-Rated Christianity. I'm hearing my own voice. Got me? Okay, good. For those that watch on a regular basis, thank you. Thank you for joining in. For those that will watch new, either or watching for the first time now, if you are, or going to watch for the first time, welcome. This is R-Rated Christianity. This is an apologetics podcast. Comes from the Greek word apologia, to give an answer, a defense, a reason why we are Christians. And tonight, we're actually going to do an exercise in critical thinking on Christianity and defending your faith. We have a wonderful example of it, and you see the backlash and the attacks on it. And so we just want to go back. George is not here tonight. He'll be here next week, and we're going to do part 2 to this because it's such an important topic we're going to talk about tonight. And I'll tell you the example in a little while. The R stands for real, raw, redemptive. We have real conversations. We do it in a raw manner, genuine, just kind of transparent. Not, it's not for the church pulpit, but it's for everyday talk for us at least. We just want to be authentic. But hopefully these conversations help you think your way to a redemptive relationship with the first century Jew that we call Messiah. For us Christians, we believe is God incarnate, Jesus Christ. So it's important to us. Look, we are in a challenging time in our history. I think because of social media, there are some blessings, but maybe more challenges with it because shit travels fast. Bad travels fast, deception travels fast, and unless good people are willing to stand up and push back as a Christian should do, we should be the arbiter and the defender of truth. Conform to truth. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, John 14:6. Conform to that, then champion it. And I think we saw a good example. Like this, we're not going to talk about politics tonight per se. Well, we always talk about the politics of heaven, right? The polity is the set of ideas advocated by a group of people to affect the affairs of the city or the affairs of your environment or your society. Matthew 28:19, the Great Commission, go into all nations, making disciples of all men, teaching them to obey all that I've commanded. Well, if you don't know what you believe, you can't teach anybody else. And you definitely can't live by it, and you're not probably persuaded by the lifestyle and the ideology. But we're going to use a political example, but we're not necessarily trying to talk about partisan politics. Again, we're always talking about politics, the polities, the ideas of heaven. And that's our politics. But there is a new speaker, Mike Johnson, that was voted in finally, thank God. Shit, took forever. But and his speech I thought was interesting. I had no idea who this dude was. I'd never heard of him. George did, of course, but I didn't. And I heard he was a devout Christian. Okay, that means something, I guess, today. Devout Christian, and I listened to his speech. Now, talk is cheap, as my pop always said. Actions speak louder than words. My understanding, I have not done a deep dive, so I'm not here to be an apologist for Mike Johnson per se, although I like what I've heard so far. But he gave a really good speech. He gave a really great speech, in my opinion. I thought he was very practical in his talk. I thought his tone was appropriate. His demeanor was appropriate. I thought he was conciliatory. I thought he was complimentary to even the other side. I thought he offered an open door, but he was very open in just a practical way about his Christian faith and the Bible. And he took, which of course you knew it was coming, a shitstorm of attacks over it. We're going to use 2 examples tonight of those attacks, Bill Maher and Jen Psaki. We're gonna I was going to say something, I better leave it.
Yep.
We're going to keep this R-rated Christianity, not X-rated Christianity. But he took and from other people too. And then, of course, a lot of people acknowledged and gave him affirmation for it. But I thought he was appropriate. You guys know if you've been watching for a while, I get frustrated with corny Christians or Christians that aren't comfortable in their spiritual and even literal skin. And he just seemed very genuine. It seemed very natural, the way he talked about his faith. I've watched a number of interviews, 2 or 3, 4 interviews since then. Very consistent about the way he talks about his faith. He seems to have a good working knowledge of our foundation, the history of this country, and his Christian faith. He did it very practically. But the criticism we're going to see is complete bullshit. It can't even logically be defended.
It's open season on Christians.
Well, sure it is, and Jews, right,
Yeah.
and anybody from the book. But you can't say shit about Muhammad. You can't say anything about Islam. You can call the Christian a bigot. You can call the Christian a homophobe. although we're not throwing people off of buildings as they do in many Islamic countries. But, you can't criticize Sharia law. You can't criticize, wrapping women up and only their eyeballs showing. You can't criticize, beating a woman for insubordination. You can't criticize chopping off hands for stealing. Not that we support stealing, of course, but the punishment should be metered, right? Justice. This should be appropriate justice. That's what Scripture talks about. So we have to be able to defend the ideas of heaven in a practical and a real, raw way that leads to redemption, leads to repentance. People to say, man, there's something to your ideas. Well, they're not my ideas. I'm just hopefully representing them well. Not only in my words, but God willing in my behavior and my actions, because as we said, talk is cheap. So let's kind of dive in. We want to talk. George and I have done more than one show. It always comes up. Last sidebar on the after show, we kind of did a deeper dive on this because it kind of came up then a little bit. This is before the onslaught of criticism. We're probably going to talk about it again this sidebar, but on the radio portion, not the after show only. And we always dive in, and I'm going to read them tonight. I've read them many times on the show before, so bear with me. But I think they're worth repeating. The declarations and the minutes of Congress. It's historical. These are historical facts. What our Congress in 1853 and 56 felt and believed. We can go back to the beginning. John Adams and Benjamin Rush and Benjamin Franklin and the prayerful thoughtfulness of the Declaration and the Constitution, the biblical references in the Constitution, the speeches that have been given. I mean, Wall Builders does a really good job of pointing these things out. David Barton does a good job with this. And other people do too. I mean, this is not any one person has the market on these things. Mm-hmm. But it's just knowledge. I mean, we need to educate ourselves. So before we watch these two, and look, I give Bill Maher credit when credit's due. You guys know I like him overall. I don't agree with 95% of the shit he says. Maybe 90. I don't know. I haven't done the numbers on it. But the vast majority of the stuff I disagree with him on ideologically. But he advocates and he models conversation with people he disagrees with. But when it comes to Christianity, and all religions, but
it's personal.
He'll defend. Yeah, and you know why? I heard he grew up Catholic, and he had some shitty examples of Christians, and it's totally skewed. When he criticized, and he is militant about criticizing Islam. By the way, I got to hand it to him. He talks truth. But he's actually, and I'm not just being selective, he's logical in his criticism of Islam because it's true. But he loses all of that logic when it comes to Christianity. And you'll see tonight. I mean, it's not just me making it up and being biased on my selective opinions of Bill. I mean, I try to call balls and strikes. When I agree with him, I'll say it passionately. I'll tell you why, not just because I feel it, not when it's convenient to me. And when I disagree with him, I'll tell you the same thing. I would love to have a conversation with him. And he seems to be open when he talks to people he disagrees with. And he's like, And I've seen him course correct. Not overtly, but I mean, it's like, okay, maybe there's something to that. Now, Saki's just this ridiculous individual. I don't know. There's nothing to say about this chick. But George and I wanted to call this. Hi, Tyler. Are you still here?
I'm here.
Welcome.
Devout hypocrisy. They talk about devout religion, devout Christian. These people, their cornerstone of their religion, of their ideology, is devout hypocrisy. That's their religion. You will show examples of this. I mean, we can talk about it now. When faith means nothing, when the Christian faith means nothing to someone that they're advocating for, then they tout it. Like Biden. He's a devout Catholic, even though he votes a certain way on abortion. Pelosi, devout Catholic, even though she votes the way she votes on abortion. And even though there's many popes and bishops that say, hey, these people are going to be excommunicated because you cannot
Great
support.
point. You can't mock Catholics openly for some reason, but you can mock Protestant Christians.
Well, no, they'll mock Catholics. They won't mock their Catholics because it's their pet Catholic. it's because their devoutness is being used. They're opportunists.
It's like identity politics. That they fit in a camp, and we're going to keep them right there. And
Well, they want to use the Christianity when it benefits them.
Yeah.
And they're a good example of a Christian when you're not advocating Christian principles. I mean, hypocrisy is a cornerstone of their religion. So, you're advocating something that's not Christian. You're a good example of a Christian. No, you're a shitty example of a Christian. You're not a good example of a Christian. But it's opportunism for them. So that's why George and I were talking earlier, and he goes, "Gosh, I can't believe I'm missing this week." It's such a passionate topic for him. I said, "George, there's plenty to talk on this. We'll keep it short tonight, maybe, but we'll kind of prime it for next week when George and I can, bounce off each other with these ideas in our conversations." Because this was kind of a last minute audible. Because this really, when I saw these two clips, it irritated the crap out of me. I mean, it really did. Let's show, which one are you showing first?
It'll be Bill, and then Jen will go immediately.
Hey, but Mike Martin said Mar is pretty consistent in his belief that all faith in make-believe deities, his view, not mine, is contemptuous and mock-worthy. Most liberals won't mock Muslims or Native Americans for their beliefs, but will mock Christians and Jews.
Because
why?
Because they know the Christian won't go jihad on your ass. Because the Christian is not aggressive. You look at, did you see what's going on in Times Square last week? I wish I should have told you to have that video. This guy's yelling, "The only religion is Islam, and you're gonna bow to Allah."
Okay,
you have it. You can get it
I'll
before the
find it on
show's over. Aggressive. He's not. Hey man, let's persuade you. They're not trying to persuade you to Allah. It's scare the shit out of you to Allah, or make you bow your knee. It's imperialistic in nature. They are, look, this is in the Hadith, the Quran, the Sirah. We can do another show on this, by the way. George and I have made comparisons between Christianity, Islam, and Judaism in the past. We've thrown in Hindu and Buddhism for free. And there's more, there's way more than that, but not all religions are the same, and ideologies and faiths are the same. And so under Islamic movement, they're trying to establish one caliphate under one caliph, one leader. And that's it. And when there's battle between the sects under Islam, it's on who's the caliphate and who's this. And there's a lot of disagreement in there. And it's deadly disagreement, by the way, in Shiite and Sunni Muslims. But play the things.
Yes, we'll do the Bill Maher. I have your one.
You found
Times
it?
Square. I can play it after if you want.
Oh, yeah.
We'll do the Bill Maher real quick.
Horrible shooting in Maine.
No.
And I heard, we don't know much about the guy yet, but apparently he heard voices. And I thought, is he that different than Mike Johnson? Really? Degree, yes, but it's thinner than you think.
The Bible doesn't just inform his worldview, it is his worldview. In fact, during his first speech in his new job, Johnson suggested that his election as Speaker was an act of God. Talk about a bit of a humble brag there. His views on policy are essentially what you'd expect from a religious fundamentalist. They're more divisive than they are divine.
Let's just comment on that. There's too much to comment there. We're good? So Bill Maher's lost his mind. Comparing Mike Johnson to the main shooter who killed, 18 people and injured how many more? I want to use stronger language, but I know that this show's not used to it. But, it's so... again, I give Bill credit when credit's due. And Mike is right. Bill, when it comes to... Look, I've seen the shows, because he went after Ben Affleck. And him and Sam Harrison, the atheist, are just trouncing Ben Affleck, because he's a dumb dick. And he's defending Islam as if he knows what the hell Islam stands for, or the principles underneath it. And look, and this doesn't mean that you don't know a peaceful, Muslim. And I'm not saying any of that stuff. I'm just saying I go to the ideology. I go to the tenets. I go to the hadiths, and there's more than one. The Quran, and there's different surahs. Those are the chapters, and the Sirah. And you compare that to the Old and New Testament. Yes, I'm not afraid of Leviticus. We can talk about cultural things, and then historical context, and then of course what God advocated and what He was doing. We can talk through the Mosaic Law and the New Testament, the Old Testament, the Old Covenant, the New Covenant. George and I have done that before, and you have to have a working knowledge, because there's a bunch of soundbite advocacy out there. And when I was going to my journey to Christ, I looked at all of it. I had to, because I was born and raised Catholic. My brother was murdered, as you guys know. I've shared with my testimony. I was pissed off at God. I said, how could a good God allow this to happen to good people, as if we were good people in God's standards? We're all sinful in Romans 3 and falling short of the glory of God. Why do you call me good, as Jesus in Matthew said to the rich young ruler? No one's good but God. We're not designed to know the difference. We're designed to look at our daddy, or the architect of everything, for the definitions of good. And so I had to look at these things. I mean, I couldn't tell you why I was a Christian. I wasn't. I mean, I wasn't saved. Why I believed in the resurrection, which I didn't when I was really pressed on it. Whether I really believe Jesus was born of a virgin. Islamic people do, by the way. The Quran talks about Jesus born of a virgin. We can do another show on that stuff, on how the Quran really elevates Jesus. And they even had, I got in a debate, a friendly one with an Islamic friend, a client of mine actually, and he says they believe Jesus is Messiah. It's a fascinating dichotomy of old Quran, new Quran, Mecca versus Medina, Muhammad's earlier ministry, if you can call it that, and movement towards later when jihad was pushed in. The old surahs versus the newer surahs, and the doctrine of abolition, and so the abrogation. They abrogate the old ones, and if there's a conflict, the newer ones abrogate the old ones. I mean, we've gone through all of that stuff. But you have to ask these questions, and Saki. I wanted to do Bill Maher first. Sorry, guys, but Saki would never make a little comment like that against Islam. She would never.
No, never.
She wouldn't have the breasts. I was going to say balls. She didn't have the guts to do that. There's no way in hell she would do that.
Right.
To criticize, and there's plenty.
It's for the small man,
But
right? It seems like the left or the
religion of progressivism, or
the religion of
leftism, or whatever you call
progressivism,
it.
less leftism. They're always out to seem like, hey, we're out for the small guy. We want to take from the rich, give to the poor. We want to fight boldly and they see Christianity as the powerhouse. They see Christians as kind of like the truth that it
there's
is,
more Muslims
but so
than there are
therefore they're
Jews,
going to
Howard.
side and align with the small guy just to like help them resist, and this is their their moral relativism. Like, this is where they get their morals from. They feel like they're doing good by supporting this type of a mission.
I don't think they give a shit about good. I don't think they even know what that is. They want power, and as they say, my enemy's enemy is my friend, and so they will side with the Islamic person to destroy the Christian, not knowing that the Islamic person will end up destroying that ideology will ultimately destroy them. Pull all their bullshit. Go to Gaza, and see how that works. Go hang out with Hezbollah, and ISIS, and all these people. Not that they represent all Islamic people. I'm not saying that, but they go straight to the Quran. When the Hamas leaders was saying what they were going to do, they quoted surahs from the Quran. That they're going straight to the books. They're going straight to the ideology. But she wouldn't do that. So they have to side with the Muslims to bring them in. And that's why to get the traditional Western culture, American foundation, which is Judeo-Christian in nature. We've talked about it. I'll read the declarations from Congress again tonight, just to reiterate that. You can't read them enough. So they want to side with the Islamic person to get the Christian out, because she would never do that shit. Because guess what, Saki, ask them what they think about marriage. I mean, there's no LGBT movement in Islamic countries. Ask them what they think about transgenderism.
Yeah.
Ask them. Matter of fact, go.
Do they know they're supporting homophobes? That'd be my question.
No, but that's their mindset, right? But they won't call them that, is my point. They don't have the balls to call them that. But go have a protest in support of any of these movements that the Christian tolerates, because we're supposed to love everyone, not condone everything. But they know the Christian's not going to react the way or respond to them.
If I could speculate, I really think people are fearful of Islam, of retaliation or some type of...
That's part of it.
You
sure.
know, I mean, like you said, it's open season against Christianity, because Christianity is not going to treat you like the mafia. Where you said, what about who? You know.
I mean, yeah, you can make fun of Jesus Christ, but go to an Islamic community and do the same thing to Muhammad. See what happens to you. And people know these things.
In Europe, there was that Danish cartoonist years ago who drew a picture of Muhammad, and the newspaper was so scared of all the threats that they were getting. This is in the UK, I think.
Oh,
and they
France,
said
if not?
they said like
France, I think it was.
40% of the Muslims were saying that it was reasonable to kill the Danish cartoonist. Like 40%. We're saying totally. We need to behead him. It's over. You know.
Well, you have to look at that. Well,
Wow.
Well,
That's good. Good. Thanks for bringing that up. That's
no,
so
but
true.
he's not. Look, this is just objective truth we're talking about. So what she said was absolutely insane. So what Mike Johnson said was he believes that all leaders are God ordained or approved. If we believe God is sovereign, then he's not taking off guard. He's not saying, "Oh, this leader, oops, I didn't want that one to win the election." He allowed it, and he's working on a bigger plan. There's a bigger architectural plan eternally that God's working on. I mean, we can look through the scripture, and there's a bunch of shitty leaders in the past, you know, and demonic and evil and all kinds of stuff. Well, I mean, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about Nebuchadnezzar and Nero and all that.
Right.
You think all that got through God's, you know, knowledge, and he got caught off guard? And so what Mike Johnson said, if we're going to be true, if truth matters, but it doesn't to these people, this is my point. He said all of us were. He included the Democrats. Yeah. He said, I believe all of us. What are we going to do with that responsibility, essentially? Go look up his speech. Go listen to it for yourself. Right. That was very dishonest what she said. There was nothing arrogant about that statement. It was his tenor, his demeanor was humbling. What a huge responsibility. That I believe, he goes, that's my belief. He goes, I'm not pushing it on you, as we're going to see the guy in Times Square. But that this is my belief, that I believe all of us were ordained and chosen by God. What are we going to do? It was a very humbling speech. It was not arrogant at all. It was very conciliatory, and he wanted to bring people together. So she's the typical lying, deceptive person that she is. It's typical, and it's disingenuous. And then now we get to Bill Maher. There's just no words. I mean, Bill's never pissed me off as much as what he did right there. To try to connect Mike, and nobody pushed back on his little bullshit panel.
Right.
As much as Bill likes to be.
Hey, and you've been talking up Maher lately.
Yeah. I like him. I'm not going to not like him because of this. But this shit was way. I mean, he had lost his mind on this deal to compare Mike Johnson to the main shooter. I wish somebody would have. I said, Bill, you are a stupid son of a bitch for saying that. That is absolutely ridiculous. You're losing credibility. Just stop, brother. Stop. Rethink that. You can call Mike Johnson whatever name you want to. You can say he's ridiculous, but lesser degree. It's a complete bullshit statement, Bill, and let's dissect it at the very least. But this is the mindset, and it's wrong, and it's evil. It is evil because you're comparing Christians to evil. But we have got to be able to respond. We've got to be able to defend the faith. We've got to be able to banter. We have to know what we believe, first of all. Play real quick the Times Square. I want to make a comparison. Where's the criticism of this? I want to see the monologues on this.
I don't think we're going to have audio.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The correct religion. This is the religion that all of humanity needs to be a part of, Islam. And we will not stop until it enters every home. So I want you to repeat after me. I want to hear it in every single district. It should tremble. Brooklyn should hear it. The Bronx should hear it. Queens should hear it. Say it as if the Ummah depends on this, my brothers and sisters. La ilaha illallah. There is no God worthy of worship.
Now, and we're not going to stop until Islam is in every home. I mean, and you started a little bit late, but I mean, he did a similar. I mean, this is imperialistic in nature. You don't have a choice. You better conform, or you're going to
cancer.
Well, I mean, this is not freedom of speech stuff. You're not going to say what you want. You're going to do what we say. I mean, that was an aggressive tone. Mike Johnson was that. Where's the criticism?
He said, "We're done of being tortured and hurt. This is correct," meaning, I guess, Islam. Mm-hmm. So he was saying, "Hey, we're not going to be in the shadows anymore." Basically, this is.
Well, I don't know if they've ever been in the shadows, but that's fine. And look, again, we just have to have an honest conversation. I know some people that are Islamic that want to change some things. That there's some things that bother them, as they should be. There's some things that bother them, and they want to kind of reform, is the word I was looking for. Reform Islam. That's fine. I think that's good. But we just have to look at the historical context. You have to, I think people need to study Muhammad's life, study the ideology, study Christianity, and all the thousands of years of messianic prophecies leading to the life of Christ and the probability of that. I did an objective view because I didn't know what, I mean, I had an Islamic friend of mine when I was going through my journey. I didn't know what the hell I believed. He said, Nico, we're really, when we say Allah, it just means God. You say Yahweh. At the time, I was like, oh, interesting. And then he gives me the whole Abraham and Hagar and Sarah and Ishmael and Isaac. It's like, we have the same, earthly father, Abraham. And they both worship the same God. And I was like, but as I educated myself, your God's characteristics, Allah's, are very different than Yahweh. Yeah. And unless he's schizophrenic, there's a problem there. There's a disconnect. And I'm not being funny. I'm just being honest. This was my journey when I started studying and digging in to things. Bill Warner's a good person to look at if you want to study some Islam stuff. He's really educated on stuff. And there's other people too as well. Nabil Qureshi, before he passed away, he left Islam. Abdu Murray, he used to work. They both worked for Ravi Zacharias. Whatever people think about him is fine. I mean, Ravi wasn't perfect. He obviously finished very badly, but doesn't take away from his teaching at the time. But Abdu Murray and Nabil Qureshi were both Islamic, and they left Islam. And their testimonies, you can find them on YouTube, are pretty powerful. Do you want to say something, Jay?
You might be able to know more than I do, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the term Allahu Akbar is not God is great, it's our God is great.
Yeah.
Meaning the distinction.
Just making a distinction.
It's not
sure.
the God of the Bible. It's not the God of Christianity.
Is it Alu at the bar?
Yeah.
Is that what how do you say it?
Yeah. No, I mean.
Aku a bar?
Yeah. Look, there's no other prophet but Muhammad. I mean, they believe that, right? And so there's the 5 pillars. Many people believe jihad is the 6th pillar. Again, we can do a different show on that. We can do a different show analyzing Islam versus Christianity and making that distinction from Abraham, Ishmael, and Isaac, and where the Ishmaelites, when they broke away and they were cast out, and what happened there, where Hagar went. Were you going to say something?
I mean, are there Muslims that will denounce jihad, that will denounce killing other people?
Not in an Islamic country. They won't. First of all, no one's going to yell.
Openly.
They're not openly going to do it. You're not going to. How many Islamic people are denouncing Hamas? I mean, on a regular basis.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the problem that, there's always going to be the faction. As long as Islam is in existence and the book is readable, there is going to be a jihad faction of that religion that will cause terror in the world,
Islam actually proselytizes. They go to prisons and they give these prisoners Qurans to learn, and it's a harvest ripe for Christians to evangelize, and we don't do it.
Yeah, well, because number one, the Islam has a backbone to it, and Christians are considered.
And people like that,
of course,
including
they do. That's what that guy Andrew Tate. He says the Muslims at least know what they believe. You Christians don't know what the hell's going on. Look, these are legit criticisms. It doesn't mean that the tenets or the ideologies, the principles are consistent, and that's true. But they're making a comment about the agents and the representation, and the belief of it. Islam is called the religion of peace. Look, this conversation, when I was district attorney, I would speak out against Sharia and all this stuff because they wanted to try to replace that in Sharia courts and Islamic. Wow. And study Dearborn, Michigan. Go study Dearborn, Michigan.
Where God put you in authority when you needed to be, literally
for that season, sure.
For that, because if you weren't there, they probably would have gotten that crap.
No, I don't think so. They still wouldn't have done it. It wouldn't constitutionally fly. But I'm just saying that my criticism, constructive, by the way. I mean, I'm not here to, and that's why I didn't laugh. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. It's not funny to me, and because people will look at that and they'll say, well, you're being snarky and condescending to us. That's why we don't like you, son of a bitches. And that's why I don't joke about it. This is serious to people. It's not funny. I'm not trying to be condescending. There's huge implications. And so I don't want people to be condescending to my faith. I'm not going to be condescending to theirs. I'll debate the shit out of them. We'll go to toad on it, and we'll debate. But that's just me. That's my style.
Have you ever been in a debate with an Islamic person?
Yes, with an imam, yes.
Once?
One time for sure. Other people on other times. And look, there's some they're crafty. There's a lot of apologists out there. They have their one-liners. They all have their different talking points, and they're spoke out. I had a client just fairly recently. He came in to talk about a case, and you go to my office, I'm a Christian, but he knew that I was going to represent him well in our firm, and we talked 20 minutes about this case, and 45 minutes about faith and religion, because he used to be a Christian. And he said that it disproved it. And I listened at first, and then I took notes, and I had an answer for every one of his questions and every one of his things. And I gave him some homework, so just some stuff to think about. But he was in front of me denouncing some of the stuff that I said. How can you accept that? And he said, I don't. I go, well, then you have a problem. You have a problem with your ideology, with your faith, with your religion. You can't denounce that in Yemen. You can't denounce that in Afghanistan. You can't denounce that in Gaza. You can't denounce that in certain parts of Lebanon and all these other Jordan. So it was that time. But my point, I think the point is, it's open season. You will never see monologues or statements like that. Well, in all fairness, Bill will. Bill, when it comes to Islam and Christianity, go look this up in YouTube if you can post it later. It's when Sam Harris and Bill Maher, it's been years now, just had a passionate debate against Ben Affleck. And Ben was all emotional.
He was on his steroids because of Batman.
Probably, and he was trying to get another Academy Award. But it was stupid. It was all fake. It was like fake rage and selective outrage and all this bullshit. He didn't know what he was saying. But Sam Harris, he's an atheist, but I mean, he was speaking truth about Islam, and so was Bill. And when it comes to Islam and Christianity, Bill defends Christianity. Isn't that ironic? Isn't that interesting? Again, your enemy's enemy is your friend. But this is a sentiment that has been permeating the country for decades, by the way. Look, you cannot deny a couple of facts. I guess you can, but you're going to lose credibility. So as Mike Johnson was being criticized for his speech and him invoking his faith and him talking about the Bible and him talking about his faith in Christ and in God, the God of the Christian Bible, above his head is "In God We Trust." So you're going to criticize the guy talking about God and his faith in the Bible when in the people's house above his head is "In God We Trust." And if someone were to pull out a dollar bill, it'll say "In God We Trust," not in Allah or Buddha or Hare Krishna. In God we trust, and that is the God of the Bible. And I won't belabor you with. I have a whole notes section on this because I've studied this over the years many times. Andrew Jackson, one of our early founding fathers. I mean, he wasn't a founding father per se, but I mean, there's so many quotes. I did a whole show one time with George, and we did nothing but quotes from early founders on biblical understanding. Andrew Jackson says, listen to this. This supports Mike Johnson. Quote, "The Bible is the rock on which our republic rests." That's pretty specific, right? So we knew that we were going to have this freedom of religion, not freedom from religion, right? So you're not going to be forced, but you will be influenced by it. And that's what our founding fathers wanted. I won't read all the other quotes. I'm going to skip down because I wanted, well, you know, we know that 56 of the founding fathers that signed went to the equivalent of a theological school, and they didn't go to, into Bible school per se, but we're talking about half of the 56 signers of the Declaration had equivalent of a Bible degree. I mean, deep studies in it. I'm going to go down to a quote. Well, let's just do John Adams, president twice. Sorry, I couldn't pass this one up. I was scrolling down and it happened. "The general principles on which the fathers, meaning them, achieved independence were the general principles of Christianity." I mean, I can go over and over. There's too many of them. You know, it's impossible to rightly govern a nation without God in the Bible. You know who said that? You know who said that? Someone on there? Someone know? Mike? Does anybody know? It is impossible to rightly govern a nation without God in the Bible. Jeopardy. George Washington.
Who is?
George Washington, our first president. So Mike Johnson would be in good company. And this is what I'm saying.
Yes.
So let's go,
But see, progressives, this is their creed. They think that the old way is the old way, and that was the oppressive way, and this is the way that led to.
No, but then say that. Don't say that it's then say that. Make that argument, but then back it up. I'm okay with that, but don't disguise an argument in a bullshit point. Mm-hmm. But they don't say it that way. That's the old way. They're just saying that you're bigoted. You're this. This is not true, and they call people liars when you say that this is in foundation a Judeo-Christian nation. John Jay, you know who he was? First Supreme Court Justice of the United States. Providence had given to our people the choice of their rulers. And it is the duty, as well as the privilege and interest of our Christian nation to select and prefer Christians for their rulers, end quote. John Jay, the first Supreme Court Justice of the United States, probably could define what a woman was. We have a Supreme Court Justice that can't. It's not being snarky, I'm just being honest. Okay, I'm still just trying to get down to those 2 quotes. I have them right here. But I just couldn't, I saw those damn things. So in 1853, you guys have heard me, so bear with me, but I just think it's appropriate because this Jen Psaki shit, and it irritates me because there's people out there that advocate this bullshit and nobody pushes back. And you got to push back because it's not true. So in 1852, as you guys know, or most people know, there was a petition, there was a movement of Congress to remove chaplains from the army, to take every reference, to quit praying in the Capitol. I mean, to have any Bible. There was an overt, belief in a biblical understanding. So Congress took a year and they researched it. They said, let's go back to the 1776, 75, 78, John Adams, letters, George Washington, all the, Benjamin Rush, all our founding fathers, Andrew Jackson, John Jay. Let's do a study. Let's come up with and then they came, and a year later they came back with, and this is only a part of the quote. So last Saturday, George added to this quote because there's amazing stuff before this piece of the quote, and there's amazing stuff after. What's John? Which one's that one?
This is the letter to Abigail.
Oh, it's beautiful. Read it.
Oh, posterity, you will never know how much it cost us to preserve your freedom. I hope that you will make good use of it. If you do not, I shall repent in heaven that I ever took half the pains to preserve it.
Yeah, but he writes to her and talks about them reading a passage in either Psalms or Proverbs that they prayed, that they came together, and it was a divine. Benjamin Franklin, when they couldn't, the 13 colonies couldn't agree on shit.
They read 4 chapters of the Bible.
Yes, 100% in the Continental Congress.
Yeah.
And there's disagreement. Slavery was a big issue. Half of them wanted it, some didn't. It was back and forth. But they knew. But they knew they could not go against England and the king and the monarch without unity in there.
How much it costs us to preserve your freedom. How much it costs us to preserve your freedom.
They gave up almost everything, these guys. People, I mean, they weren't
I
just
hope that you will make good use of it. And if you do not, I shall repent in heaven that I ever took half the pains to preserve it.
My.
That
That's
is
powerful.
like,
Deep.
from who?
Deep.
John Adams?
Deep. People don't know who the hell this guy is. Look for another quote in there. He's got other quotes though. But let me read this. So they came back with a declaration in 1853, and you guys have heard me read this before. And this is a portion of it. I told George I want to get the rest of it. He just went and read it from the archives. And so on the show last week, he read the part before and a little bit after. So there's more to this. Had the founding fathers during the Revolution had a suspicion of any attempt to war against Christianity, damn, that's powerful, that revolution would have been strangled in its cradle. At the time of the adoption of the Constitution and the amendments, the universal sentiment was that Christianity should be encouraged, but not any one denomination. And see, it didn't say different religions. The battle was over denominations, not over different religions, but not any one denomination. In this age, there's no substitute for Christianity. That was the religion of the founders of the Republic. Listen to this. And they expected it to remain the religion of their descendants. They didn't demand it, but they expected it because they knew that they were doing an experiment. They were doing something different. This wasn't new. If they were going to self-govern, our founding fathers knew that you can't self-govern. It was the first time there wasn't a monarch in place. This was something new. This is a fascinating. I'm fascinated by this as I get older and study it. When I was younger, I didn't give two shits and I didn't pay attention in school. But then this is not taught anymore anyway. I mean, but they said if we want to govern ourselves, if we want this country to be of the people, by the people, and for the people, we need two things from our citizens. Number one, they need to be educated. They can't be dumb as shit, and they need to have virtue, virtuous, meaning they need to know how to treat their neighbor and what set of rules and guidelines from the Bible. Love your neighbor as yourself, right? To see that everyone is an image bearer and know that there's value. And so we don't have to govern you if you can self-govern yourself because we're all playing off the same rule book. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So education and virtue. So 3 years later, Congress came back with another, in my opinion, more specific, and there's more to this, by the way. This is the portion that caught my attention, and you can look this up, by the way. George has the specific, where the minutes and where they are and where congressional record, they're there. So In 1856, here's the second declaration, and then we'll go to Jeff's quotes. And there's a shit ton of quotes, Jeff.
There's a lot of good ones.
There's tons of them, you know?
Oh, yeah.
But so here's the quote. This is from Congress. The first one I read was from Congress. This is from Congress. This is not from some Yahoo, Baptist group or some Pentecostal group somewhere or Catholic. This is from Congress. The great, vital, and conservative element in our system, that is, the thing that holds our system together, is the belief of our people in the pure doctrines and the divine truths of the gospel of Jesus Christ. End quote.
Beautiful.
Well, I mean, it's just...
And who was that?
This is Congress in 1856. Now, even if you don't think it's beautiful, it's true. They said this. This was the culture. You can't
escape it.
You don't think that this is why eventually in 1954 to 56, it ended up on our exchange of value, in God we trust? It was because of this history, this long history. And if you research, I used to have the data somewhere in my notes, so I'm not prepared to share it with you, but I will next time. If you look at how many presidents, both Republican and Democrat, called for national days of fasting and prayer. Fasting and prayer because of shit that was going on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. That was how we did things. That was the way we did this thing called life and government. Now, you had the freedom to think and to worship the way you want to, but you were going to be influenced. In 1962, after the Supreme Court case, Engel versus Vital, they came back with a horrible, horrible decision where they removed the 10 Commandments and all biblical teachings from public schools. They used to teach biblical teachings, and used to be in public schools. If you look at data from 1962 to today, I mean, the data sucks. You take out a moral compass.
Yeah.
And people say, well, I can't be good and be an atheist. You can. You just can't justify it.
Yeah.
And I've said that. I've talked about
So
it.
technically,
You're
no.
the
You know, if
double-minded
it's,
No,
man.
you can. You still can. You just can't justify it. You can be good, depending on how what you define what good is. You can treat your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah.
You cannot covet. You cannot steal. You cannot murder. You cannot rape.
But you can't
cannot
steal
bear
more.
false witness. You cannot do all that. You cannot sleep with your neighbor's wife. You can, and all those things are good. And if you ask an atheist community, all the things I just
why should I
mentioned
do that?
were good. You just can't justify
Right.
why. Because then you say, well, because those things are good. Says who?
Yep.
Well, says me. So you make up the rules. You're God, small g. You're okay with a God. It just has to be you. That's what the atheist will say.
That's correct.
That's the mindset.
That is
When you
correct.
break it down, they can't defend that.
Yep.
They just can't. And so these are the conversations. This is why when I heard Saki
Why
say that,
apologetics is so important for Christians. I mean, you and George, I mean, this is obviously like one of the biggest things that you guys push is that we need to be studied up and we need to be prepared. We are going to encounter people that believe antithetically different viewpoints than us, and they're going to attack our belief system. Are we ready to even defend
well,
it?
and be ready. You're not even going to find someone that's antithetical. You're going to find someone that claims to be on the same team, and they're changing shit.
Yeah.
And because it makes it, because we have this syncretism. We've talked about syncretism,
Yeah,
where we syncretize the world and our faith to make it palatable. Look, don't be a dick.
Like the coexist bumper sticker.
The 11th commandment, right? Don't be a jackass. But know what you stand. And not every encounter is going to be ugly. Yeah. Like when I had my conversation with the client, he was very gracious. He was very gracious, and he had such honor and reverence to Christ, but not as his Messiah. And he made the claim that we honor Christ more than the Jew. Okay, I'll listen to that argument. I mean, I don't know. That's fine. But you're both wrong. The Jew's wrong too. The Jew doesn't get a pass.
That's correct.
The Jew doesn't get a free pass. I mean, if they don't accept Christ, I mean, Scripture says what Scripture says. Just because they're the chosen people, that is the people that God chose to bring the gospel message
That's
through.
correct.
But they don't get a pass. There's nothing in Scripture that says that. That's it. It's a simple. I mean,
That's
it's just
correct.
That's it. I either believe. Look,
That's what Romans tells us. Romans teaches us that God allowed the gospel to go to the Gentiles, meaning you, me, and everyone else in the world. We would receive it to provoke them to jealousy because they're the ones that were given the law, the prophets, everything. They should have recognized Jesus. They didn't. Therefore, God allowed us into the picture. But
which he always intended in the
Right.
first place, right? I mean, this is the parable of the wedding, right? And the invitations. But this, we have to be prepared to discuss these things. Look, to me, I don't get I get passionate about it. I believe Christianity is true.
Yeah.
Christianity gives the best explanation to the world that we see, to the evidence we see out there. Something has to tell you the dynamics between humans, the human nature. Do you think people are fundamentally good or fundamentally flawed? I mean, and the non-believer was, we're fundamentally good, really? Well, Mao wasn't, Stalin wasn't, Hitler wasn't, Lenin wasn't.
Yep.
Well, I mean, we can go on and on. Genghis Khan wasn't. I mean, we keep going on about just these murderous animals, and they thought that they were right. They made the choice. They were godless. There was no parameters for them, right? So, I mean, no, people are not fundamentally good. I think people all have that fundamental potential. Yes, because we're designed for that. If we receive it, right? We all are image bearers. We are image bearers. And that's why we love on people. And Bill Maher and even Saki, you want to sit with these people. I don't even know if they believe the shit that they say. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think Bill does because he's hurt. When you hear him talk, he speaks from a position of pain. Yeah. He's hurt. Right?
Yes.
What's your thoughts?
Joe Rogan too.
Joe Rogan's coming around though.
He was raised Catholic. I think that's kind of why
I thought I heard that.
The way he is, in terms of, and it's funny because we talked about this in the past, but on a lot of his podcasts, he would say, man, these Christians are so goofy. They think a young earth and they don't believe in the Big Bang. They're so stupid and they believe their book. And then someone like a Stephen C. Meyer who believes in intelligent design, the Big Bang, all these different things, he presents that to Joe, and then he's like, well, maybe the universe was always eternal. Maybe the universe always existed. So he wanted to...
He wanted an out, and so you have to corral him back. Look, I would love to be on Joe, man. You know that. I'd give him 3 hours of...
I know.
I'd match him F-bomb for F-bomb, man. Like, we're just we're going to follow truth.
Yeah.
And I'll share my journey with him. And my journey wasn't PG rated. It wasn't G rated. It was rough. But I love Jesus, man.
He would ask you about God allowing evil, and that would probably be your...
I would love that. It's not an easy conversation, but it makes sense to me. What's evil? Because without God, there's no evil. He's giving me a hypothetical that doesn't apply in his ideology and his worldview. What's evil? Right. What's evil to him, and who gives him that standard? He's going to borrow from God to slap him in the face. And then you have to ask yourself, is there any logical reason? Can you think of any good that can come from what you perceive as an evil event? What do I mean by that? I'll use me as an example before I use other people's example. August 15th, 1996 at 2:14 in the morning, my brother was murdered in my driveway. Parents came out, younger brother and I came out, picked up Mike's body after the investigation off the ground, loaded it, washed the blood off with my pop, saw my mom cry, saw my pop cry for the first time. That was evil. Yeah. That was evil. You guys have heard me say this. The first 10 years after that, I would have chopped your head off if you had said, God is good. I would have said, excuse my language, fuck you,
Yeah.
God is so good. God works all things out. Romans 8:28 would have gotten your head chopped off from me. But here I am today, and I've been here for a while now. I wouldn't take it away. I wouldn't take away August 15th, 1996. Because if I take it away, I got to take everything away.
Yeah.
My perspective, my relationship, my family, my children, anything that I've done.
The blessings you have in your life today.
Well, the blessings are serving God. The blessings are know that I have salvation waiting for me. The blessings are know that I have a bold, courageous, loving God that showed me how to live a life that I can't live and gave me a gift that I don't deserve and took the punishment that I absolutely deserved and says, hey, you're eternal. Now you're going to spend it with me. That's good news, right? That's good news. And I'm persuaded by that. I'm not a feel-good Christian. I'm not going to kumbaya you to heaven. And I'm not going to yell at you to heaven. That doesn't work either. I will reason with you. I'll get passionate. I'll advocate. I'll defend my king because he hung for me. I'm going to stand for him.
Yeah.
I'm persuaded. I'm absolutely persuaded. I'm as persuaded that Christianity is true as much as I'm persuaded that I could not fly if I jump off a building. You understand what I'm saying? If you said, Nico, you're going to have to push me off, and you're probably going to come with me because I'm going to fight, and I'm going to shoot your ass, or we're going to fight. I'm going to poke your eyes out,
shoot
whatever.
You midair.
Whatever, you're coming with me, Jack. But I know I can't fly. That's how much I know Christianity is true.
Yes.
You understand? And that comes only, Jeff, from a deep study. And I don't have all the answers, but I don't have to.
That's
I
right.
guarantee you that
That's
the
correct.
vast majority of people cannot tell you why a plane works. But they
Yep.
get on that damn plane.
Yep.
And you can go over it. I give you example after example. Everyone has faith in something.
Yes.
I have faith in an ideology and a historical person that did some badass things, that did some amazing things, that we didn't have this bullshit social media, and we're still talking about that dude today.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's miraculous. And there's no way you can't have it, like C.S. Lewis said, you can't have it both ways. You can't say he's a good guy. You can't say he's a good teacher. He's a liar. If you can't, he's a liar, or he is who he is. You can't patronize me. You can't have it both ways. I love that statement. I use it when I talk sometimes. C.S. Lewis, it's a long statement about that. He's either crazy as a poached egg, or he's God, bow your knee and worship him because he is who he says he is. So this, look, we've got to encourage church members and followers of Jesus Christ to defend, to stand up, to be persuaded, to study, and get our young people, man. Have talks with your young people. I'm meeting with Maya, our 15-year-old's friends. We do it every month or so. Tomorrow's another day, and we're going to do another gathering with them. 12 to 15 kids get together, and we're going to talk. We're going to talk
That
biblical
age
ideas.
group is just so important because they're asking so many questions, and they might not even be asking them out loud, but they're, those gears are spinning. Because when you're a teenager, you're constantly wondering, what's my purpose? Why am I here?
But see, we have a church. You got me started, man. Right here at the last minute. But we got a church that'll get these youth groups together, and they'll put on a rock concert. And I love praise and worship, and I think it's powerful. But if you don't have the relationship, praise and worship is just another concert, right? I'm not into the hymns. If that works for you, God bless you. I love good praise and worship music as long as the lyrics are honoring Jesus Christ and directing you back to Christ. And I'm okay with that experience. I'm okay with that. But you got to have the ideology and the persuasion to back it up. And so a lot of these youth groups, you get together, you have a little rock concert, you say some things, they repeat what you want them to say, and they go off, and there's no persuasion because they do whatever the shit they want to do.
Yeah, I know.
When they go to college or by themselves or whatever else, they're not persuaded. And then everybody's worried about, let's talk right. Fuck, they're listening. They're hearing it all, man. They're hearing every bit of it. You're not, unless you have your kid in a box somewhere in this world, you either prepare them for the battlefield or you try to keep them in a bubble, and the bubble will pop. I deal with that every day. I can't tell how many parents have been in front of me. I raised my kid, and I can't believe it. And I would have never. And we went to church and kids group and youth groups and this camp and that camp and Sunday school and blah. And then they're over there, blowing some dude and getting VD or in a car during a capital murder or some ag robbery, and they're in the back seat smoking dope because they didn't make good decisions or whatever. I mean, I just can't tell you all the different things I've seen.
Right.
And I'm not saying, look, my kids are not immune from this. I mean, we're doing the best we can. This is an experiment, and we're looking at Jesus for the answer. And we're having just honest conversations with Maya. And we're going to do our best to sow into her and to be watchful and not just to assume things and correct, encourage, and rebuke, 2 Timothy 4, right? And that's all we can do, and then pray. But we're going to do it raw. I'm not, look, my daughter's 15. If you think that you're 14, 15-year-old, shit, I got cases with 12-year-olds on TikTok grabbing their crotch, showing their ass, I mean, in a thong on TikTok and Snapchat, being all sensual. You think you're at a Sopranos, titty bar, bada bing, and it's a 12-year-old on TikTok sending a message to a 20-something-year-old or whatever, another 14-year-old, having sex. I mean, this is it. This is the depraved society. So you better train up your child and do the best you can and motivate them and persuade them that God is real. I mean,
Train your child in the way they shall go.
Proverbs 22:6.
When they're old.
They will not depart from it. Doesn't mean they won't sway from it, but they won't break from it. Look, man, God bless you guys. You guys anything else? Any questions?
Man,
to
good
show
show tonight.
Papa
History
John.
lesson tonight. This
Well,
is
man,
wonderful.
and the real historian's not here. George is the
Yeah.
one,
Yeah.
I'm sure he's licking his chops to be here. I just play one sometimes, and I got a little bit of knowledge to be dangerous. But there's so much more. George and I have actually done presentations on this stuff. And it's an embarrassment of riches, as we say. There's so much information about our founding fathers, about the ideology that undergirds this country. And even Isaiah 33:22 talks about the three branches of government. God is the king, executive. God is the lawmaker, the legislative. And God is the judge, the judicial. Those are the three branches of government. So Isaiah 33:22. I mean, there's so many things.
If you
we
ever wonder
Recognize
why
no sovereign but God and no king but Jesus.
John Adams. So Mike Johnson's in good company. I mean, I just read a couple of quotes, by the way. There's a ridiculous amount of quotes. So Mike Johnson, taking the criticism from these dumb dicks, is in good company.
Yes.
From the founding fathers. Now say, hey, I didn't like what they said, but Mike Johnson is going back to our founding principles. I don't like that. Say that. I'm cool with that. I don't agree with it. I think you're wrong, but at least it's.
If we're Christians,
blessed
intellectually
are
honest.
you when those who say all kinds of evil about you. This is a part of the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus famously said that the ancestor did the same thing to the prophet. So yes, he is in good company.
Yeah.
If you're getting mocked for loving Jesus, congratulations. Your reward is great.
Well, let me say this, and I said this to the men's Bible study a couple times. If you're not taking any shit for Jesus, I'm not saying go look for it, but I mean, do people know? Everybody knows who likes the Cowboys. Got the fucking Cowboys here and there, and everybody knows who likes whatever this and that. And
sports is becoming a religion. But
well, I'm just saying.
Story for
What
another
is your
day.
reputation? What is your reputation when people say, Tyler Hall? What do they say? What do they think? Is that dude loves Jesus, man?
Fanatical Cowboys fan.
For you?
No, not
Oh,
me.
you're from Wisconsin. You're
Right.
Green Bay Packers, right?
Yeah.
What do they call them? The Packers? What are the Packs?
yeah,
the
they're
Packers.
They're the
Packers?
first NFL team.
What are people called from Wisconsin?
Wisconsinite.
Wisconsinite.
Wisconsinite. Oh yeah, up there in the frozen tundra. The frozen
I'm
tundra.
from Boston.
But you're from Boston?
From Massachusetts, yeah. Not Boston direct, but yes.
Any comments on any address before we get off, guys? Thanks for tolerating this. Hope it was helpful to you.
I got just a couple
We
quick
should
comments.
be supporting Mike Johnson, and we should be
Sure.
just rejoicing in the fact that this guy is leading Congress and leading the efforts for heaven.
Well, for the country, he's very. It looks like he's well versed in his faith, in our history, and that's great.
I'll just read two quick comments. Roberto Reyes, Jesus Christ is alive and well. All other false gods are dead. The only one coming back on the clouds for his elect at the sound of the trumpet is Jesus. And Lee said, sad that Christians in developing countries like the U.S. who have everything fear to stand for the Lord, but Christians from poor countries who have nothing would die for their faith.
Developed countries.
Hey guys, thanks for joining. Hopefully, if you can share this with someone you think may benefit from it, or just think through, please do that.
And sidebar on Saturday morning,
Sidebar Saturday morning.
9
Thank you.
a.m. and 10 a.m. for the after show on Facebook and YouTube.
But it's always going to be on Facebook. The whole
Yeah,
thing
you
is
can watch the whole thing from front to back at 9 a.m.
from front to back. Interesting. All right, guys, have a blessed night. Have a blessed weekend. Thanks for joining us. God bless you.